Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner football fans podcast. You got Terry and Rob here. Boomer Rob.
Boomer Terry.
And we are coming at you from the beautiful Podcast Palace in the lovely Norman, Oklahoma.
Terry, we are not affiliated with the University of Oklahoma.
But we do have eligibility left.
Right.
A few years.
And the desire.
And
so that's
desire.
important to know.
And pretty much maybe the talent.
Well, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Listen, when you get standing up next to that 6'9", 350-pound monster up there, you might decide to change your mind.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just saying.
Kneecap him.
Right.
But,
let me just have and watch while you do that.
but as always, whatever you're listening to us on, make sure and hit your subscribe button. Follow whatever it is. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. And what else?
Don't forget to check us out on Netflix coming up
on
real
Netflix.
soon on
Yeah.
QB1.
Yeah, on QB1. We will be on Netflix, or at least our voices will be according to them.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, so
we may sign us a Hollywood deal right after that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but
but yeah, we will be on an episode. We don't know how long, but we will be on an episode of QB1 when they're covering Spencer Rattler this year. So they sent us all the little legal stuff to fill out and
Did you sign my name?
Yep.
All right.
Spelt it backwards. And,
X. Just mark an X.
But also, we need to remind everybody, if you're going to Pasadena in September to see the Sooners and UCLA, you have to come by Dan from Tailgate Connect's Sooner Tailgate.
www.tailgateconnect.com.
And sign up. It's $40. It's all you can eat and drink. Starts since the game is at a 5 o'clock kickoff in California. The tailgate starts at 11.
Yes.
So
and closes right before kickoff,
yeah,
right?
Closes, I think he said about an hour before kickoff. So that's a lot of food and drink.
A lot of food and drink. What if we don't get tickets, Terry? We're gonna be tailgateless and ticketless.
You mean tickets to the game?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get tickets to the game.
You sure we won't be crowded out by all those UCLA fans?
Yeah, the UCLA fans. Southern Cal folks. They don't. They got to go out and to the beach.
Right.
But check out Dan's website, Tailgate Connect. Dan can connect you if you're going to be traveling, or if there's any game you've ever wanted to see and you're not going to be you're going to be out of town and you want to go see Florida or something like that. Dan can set you up with folks.
He's got tailgates all over the country.
And also check out our YouTube videos on Fridays, Thursday night and Fridays from Louis. You are more than welcome to come out and join us and just hang out. It's really what we do for a couple hours there. We do a little short video.
A little food.
Yeah, a little beverage, and kick back. So, but we have two very special guests in the Podcast Palace. This is the first
live and in person
in the Podcast Palace. It's the first time in a while we've had anybody in here.
Since James Hale.
Yeah. Well, maybe no.
I'm name dropping, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. James Hale has been here twice. So, but from Davis, right?
That's my hometown.
That's your hometown.
I live in Pauls Valley, but Davis is my hometown.
Oh, okay. Pauls Valley. And I'm even going to try to pronounce her last name. I still can't know her for over a year. It's Tara
Portillo.
Very good, Rob.
Right?
Boomer Tara.
Boomer Sooner.
And we have her cousin with us. Where are you from? Hilton. Man, y'all are from little towns.
Oh, yeah.
Little spot on the map.
We have Robin Needham. Boomer Robin.
Boomer Sooner.
So Tara reached out to us, about a month ago, I guess. Mm-hmm. And with Father's Day coming up, her dad was a huge Sooner fan.
Yes, he was.
And I still kick myself because during the summer last year, we were talking about getting your dad on, and then we had some stuff came up that people wanted us to do with the podcast. And I said, well, we'll get him on when the season's over. Mm-hmm. And then I contacted her in January?
Yes.
Yeah. And was like, hey, time to get your dad on. And you informed me your dad was pretty sick.
Yes, he had gotten diagnosed with liver cancer in January, and he passed away on April 6th of this year. So it hit him hard and fast. That football season, he went to the football games. He played his golf that he loves and just was complaining about feeling tired. And then, like I said, one thing led to another, and he was actually diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. So they basically just said there wasn't much they could do.
Well, and but he was a huge fan. I met him. He came over to the tailgate one day with y'all, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Met him, and made you what you are today. Correct?
Yes. Yeah. For better or for worse. Argumentative, opinionated, and a diehard Sooner fan, which is why my Twitter handle is Rabid Sooner.
Yeah. But anyway, Tara reached out to me about a month ago and said that she, with Father's Day coming up, her and her cousin would like to come on and share Sooner stories about their dads. Mm-hmm. And Rob and I will try to keep up with a few stories about our dads with Sooner stuff. Yeah. But everybody we just met Robin. So tell us a little bit about your fandom, how you became a Sooner fan.
Well,
and
this year at kickoff, I'll have sat in the same spot for 46 years. Dad bought the tickets back in 1973. Section 2, row 8, 5, and 6. The team used to run down it. Barry Switzer and all of them. So, and because we were at the south end zone, it wasn't great seats back then, and they were a little bit cheaper. What he could afford.
Right.
And so he started there, and we've just continued the tradition. It was like you didn't do anything during football season, during Saturdays, because you had to load up and get ready to go to ball games. And, it was a passion for all of us. And Dad just, do or die, you went to an OU ball game. And so 46 years, I said, I've been going since I was 4. My daughter's been going to kickoff since she was 9 months old. We've dragged her to OU, Texas, everything. She's gone.
You're raising that kid right.
Yes, exactly. Well, Dad said we start them in diapers and we end with diapers. And so you got to go through the whole spectrum of it. So I said he was fanatical. Like when my husband met me and came into our living room, my dad had OU everywhere in the house, and he said it absolutely looked like someone threw up OU everywhere, and it was just a passion. And I think that's for Tara and I, that's the greatest legacy a parent can leave their kid. It's a passion for something, and we've become a little passionate.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, well, share some of your, favorite memories with us of your dads together. Y'all were talking before we went on about the fried chicken and.
Do you remember? Okay, you remember the story about Daddy wearing the headdress?
Yes.
Okay, you tell that story.
Okay. Tara's dad, of course, big O Indian, and I said we're going to the OU ball game, and they sat in the south end zone at the very top of the stadium at the south end, and so here comes Bob, and he's got this full length Native American OU Sooner beaded headdress, and he's walking in, and people are Boomer and he's Sooner in it. And so we sit down at the bottom of the stadium, 8 rows up, and you look up and you
now let me interrupt the story just for a little bit to tell you that physically Daddy and Mike were like Mutt and Jeff. Mike was tiny, was not a big man, and Daddy was 6'2", and I think the skinniest I ever saw my daddy before he got ill was 250 pounds. So my dad was a hulk of a man, and Mike was not. So continue.
And Dad was about 5'8" and 120 pounds wet, And so we're sitting down there, and you look up, and we've just scored, and you see this big old Indian standing up there. Hands in the air, fist flying, and nobody told him that they couldn't see or anything.
Oh, yeah.
You let the Indian with the full headdress walk right on down, And I said, that's the thing is our memories for Tara and I coincide, I said we have so many of the same memories. We would talk about waking up. Our parents woke us up at 8 o'clock. Dad played the album of Boomer Sooner, the OU band, and you got up for 8 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game.
Oh, yeah. If you weren't at kickoff at least a good 18, 20 hours before, then you were late. And there was no point in going.
And if you didn't meet at Drunk Corner before the game.
That's what my parents called Campus Corner. Our
Campus
parents called Drunk Corner.
Yeah. Okay, I was like, where? I don't know where Drunk Corner's at.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Or O'Connell's and all that.
Yeah, all that, yeah.
You told everybody you meet at Drunk Corner. If you couldn't find somebody at halftime, you met Drunk Corner, and then you went back to the inside the game, and then you went back out after the game.
Now, you're talking about when O'Connell's was at its old spot.
Yes.
Right, yeah. So
Ah.
not Campus Corner, but that,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
on Lindsay, corner of Lindsay
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. That's a good term for it because it was.
Oh, yeah.
It was around the corner.
That's where Headington is now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And so much of us, it's the memories like that, of leaving and our dad's going out and meeting at Drunk Corner because their seats were so different. They had to talk during halftime at Drunk Corner when they would release you, and then they come back in. And I said, one of my favorite stories to tell on my dad with the Selman brothers is they had gone up. My aunt and uncle lived in Norman, and it was Friday night before game, so they had gone up to go to the movies. And they were young, and, I said my aunt was probably 20, 21, 22. And so my mom and my aunt get up and go to the concession stand. And they come back and they say, these boys are hitting on us. They're asking us to this party. And my dad and uncle jump up, who's picking on our women? Who's getting our women? They walk out, and Dad looks up and he goes, it's the Selman brothers. They can have you.
Can you imagine walking up and all three Selman brothers standing there? Good Lord.
Dad said they can take you home. They can take you to a party wherever you want to go. They are yours. So I said it was, the funny parts of our lives is all associated with OU.
And we would go to away games together, and you'd have to know Daddy and Mike. They were very larger-than-life personalities, very boisterous, and very ornery, for lack of a better word.
Were they Apache or?
No. And Dad, I remember one OU Texas. Back in the day, my dad used to smoke like a freight train.
Oh.
And the only thing better than a cigarette was 2 cigarettes, And we'd gone to the OU Texas game, and we happened to be getting into the stadium right at the same time that that the Texas band was walking in. So my dad's got a cigarette hanging from his lips, and he walks right into the middle of the Texas band with his OU jersey on, and he just starts clapping, giving him a round of applause. And we're all kind of looking at my dad like, what is he doing? And the next thing I know, cigarette still hanging from his lips, he does the double horns down.
Nice.
It's like, Texas sucks. And of course, we all start laughing. All the OU fans around are laughing and hooting and hollering, and not a one of those Longhorns dared to say a word today.
Yeah, Dad always said you let Bob lead the way. And Dad would mouth, and then Bob had to cover him, because he said they'd whip me, but Bob, they were a little afraid of.
He had the intimidation factor on him.
Yes, he did. He was very intimidating.
So-
That was how he got the nickname Big Bob, which is what his grandson ended up calling him, is because he was very strict. And so if we ever wanted to go anywhere or do anything, it was, okay, ask all the other parents first, and then we'd get together and say, okay, what's Big Bob going to say? Is Big Bob going to let you go? I was like, oh, I don't know. So that's kind of how he got his nickname Big Bob, too, is because people were scared of him.
So where did he get the giant headdress?
He had that made. My daddy grew up in Oklahoma. His oldest brother, Bill, actually played for a season for Bud Wilkinson. And so that's how the whole family became huge OU fans. This is in the 1940s. And Daddy ended up getting a job with Conoco in Louisiana, moved down to Louisiana. They were there for a decade, but he's subscribed to the Daily Oklahoman, all of that kind of stuff, to keep up with OU football. And one day there was an article in the paper about a man who's a Kiowa Indian. He has now passed away as well, named Dixon Palmer. And he and his wife custom made those for basically everybody. They did teepees, they did headdresses, they made them for Hollywood celebrities, made them for movies, all kinds of stuff. And so Dad just, of course, this is before email, obviously, this is in the 70s. Dad wrote him a letter and said, hey, would you make me one that's OU? Here's what I want, here's how I want it. And he's like, sure. We even have the box that it originally came in. We got it out and displayed it at Daddy's funeral. And it was even postmarked and everything with our Louisiana address on it. And as soon as we got back to OU, Daddy applied to get season tickets. And when we were going through some of Daddy's things, Daddy had a big, huge roll-top desk in his office, which is kind of like your podcast room. I mean, everywhere you look, it's, OU. Kind of like
It's not a podcast room.
Podcast Palace.
thank
I'm
you.
sorry. Correct. I stand corrected. A Podcast Palace, folks. You ought to see it. But it was kind of like what Robin said. It looked like someone vomited OU. I mean, it was just OU everywhere. And we were going through some of the things and trying to organize stuff. And I found his letter from the University of Oklahoma that he'd kept since 1979 saying, Mr. Doty, you're on the waiting list. Your number, and they actually gave you a number.
Wow.
And he'd kept it all those years. Like, yes, I'm finally on the waiting list.
So how long did he have to wait?
I know we started going immediately because he knew somebody that had tickets. I want to say it was 1982 before we got our own.
So what do you remember? What number was he?
I can't remember. It was some high number back
so
then.
Did he like hang out outside the stadium with a, pocket knife and?
Probably, yeah. Took care of the competition to get up there.
And said,
yeah,
give me your
he said,
tickets.
yeah, exactly.
And
Wore
they
the
said,
headdress.
"Here."
Give me your ticket. And he had the mustache that grew down the sides of his mouth. So yeah, he was a very
deep voice.
Yes.
So I said he just
a big
was,
booming voice.
Yes,
yeah.
it was very intimidating. Then of course Dad was the high squeaky.
Yeah. Well, and they would just, the minute somebody, they didn't go looking for trouble, but if you gave it to them, beware, and so the minute anybody badmouthed OU, it was on like Donkey Kong. And it was a constant every time. It was like the ritual of what Rob and I were talking about, getting the fried chicken. We always had to have fried chicken at the games. Well, the other constant ritual was both of our mothers saying, y'all don't do anything that's going to embarrass us. Y'all don't drink too much beer. Y'all don't get in a fight. They said, we're not having that. And it was always a constant lecture, like, okay. And her dad always used to say, yeah, it's hard to be a badass when your wife's on your shirt, stretching out your shirt tail, pulling you back, so that was kind of our
He
joke.
said he was a one-armed fighter. He was always having, Mom had one arm and he was having to fight with the other, because he was dragging her.
Well, so one day we go to Kansas to watch OU play. The whole family went up there, and we lost. And obviously unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And so they're just hooting and hollering and being horribly obnoxious and, OU sucks and all this kind of stuff. And so my mother...
Obviously, if we lost to them.
Well, exactly. So my mother, who doesn't ever cuss, who does not have a bad temper, if somebody heard that I got into a fist fight at a football game, they'd be like, well, yeah, that's kind of Tara. They'd chalk it up to knowing me. My mother turns around, both birds in the air... Screw you, bastard! to the Kansas player that was telling us how bad OU sucked. And it was like somebody just drug the record, the needle across the record. It's like, we all stopped and looked. Like, oh my God, we can't believe my mother just did that. And so then, of course, every game since then until Mike passed away. Now, Alice, don't do anything that's going to embarrass us. Don't drink any beer and don't get in any fights.
Now, see, here's one of the things that I do want to bring up because we were talking before we started on the podcast because Rob isn't superstitious.
Oh, goodness. Shame.
And I was a baseball player, so.
No.
Shame.
Yeah, some of y'all's rituals or the things.
Well, mine begins in the mornings. If kickoff, I have to make sure I wear the shirt that we won in, and if we lose in it, you burn it. It's gone. And you have to I said the 2000 national championship season, my dad believed if you won in a shirt, you continue to wear the shirt. And so I said, it's January, it's snowing outside, we're playing for the national championship. My brother's in a wife beater shirt that says OU on it. We're all wearing our OU. I have to be in my seat by the time the band hits the field and Crazy Train comes on. I am extremely superstitious. If my family isn't watching the game at kickoff, they can't come in.
Yeah.
You start it, you end it.
Let me be clear. That is a mental disorder.
Yeah, no. It is perfectly rational behavior.
And my husband would totally agree because he goes, I can't believe. I said, no, you can't come in. You didn't start here. You can't finish it.
Man, you got to be on time at her house.
Yeah.
Dad also believed, too, and I think Bob was the same way, is that, we're not paying these kids. you start it, you finish it, and whatever leads you to believe that you're going to come out with the win, we're going to rub it, we're going to smack it, we'll do whatever we have to. I've even been known to go in and rub Barry Switzer's picture that I've got for a little Sooner magic,
All right.
And then Tara, we found out the reason why we were down 28 points to Alabama was she was wearing the Snuggie.
Well, my Snuggie apparently ran out of luck because the Snuggie, somebody got me an OU Snuggie. And I happened to be using it when we beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl with Trevor Knight. God loved Trevor Knight.
Yeah.
If he did nothing else at OU, he
Right.
did that.
He did that.
God loved the kid. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I thought, I'm going to dig that Snuggie out, and we're going to kick Alabama's ass. And so I digged the Snuggie out, and we did not. And then I threw it away.
Yeah,
after
you
the
took
game.
it. Well, you said you took it off after the first
Yes,
quarter.
I did.
And then she thought about putting it back on because we were playing better. And
Yeah, but then I
inching out.
didn't, and so maybe it's my fault, Sooner Nation. I'm sorry. I was confused with the Snuggie. It didn't have the power that it once had. I didn't know what to do, and so now I've
you
just
have
thrown
it.
it away.
Bless it and, put some holy water on it next time.
And I know, you're not supposed to pray for those things, but I'm not going to lie. I've prayed to sweet baby Jesus, please, Jesus. If you just let us win this game, I will never miss Mass again in my life.
Well, and the Sooner gods. I always
Yes.
say it's the Sooner gods. Dear God, Sooner gods, please shine upon us today.
Now, see, Rob has no game day rituals.
Nope.
Now, he would,
Well, that's not true. Every game day, I take a shower.
Oh, wow. Woo! Thank you for that one, Rob.
Well,
No,
might be
but
once a week, but hey.
there was a couple years ago, I think our patio, we used to call it the rally patio. If it was a close game, we go out on the patio and watch. And I think it's more just, it's you're not confined, you're out on the patio. But I mean, we've got a 65-inch TV here in the living room, 55-inch in the podcast palace, and a 20-inch on the patio. And a lot of times we'll sit out there and watch the game on the little bitty TV.
Well,
But-
you got to have room to walk.
Yeah, you get up.
If we're not playing well, we got to.
Oh, yeah, you got to pace.
and
Coach.
and I will
Yeah.
tell you, Rob left in the Alabama game this year.
Yep, I don't like the.
No, I
I'm
can't.
kind of a sore loser. I got to be honest with you.
Oh.
And if we're losing or getting beat, man, I'm not. I don't want to be around people.
I went out in the
Either.
garage because I was the same way. Everybody was in the house. I went out in the garage because we have a TV in the garage, so our cars can watch TV.
Yeah.
But I just text Rob. I'm in the garage, and Rob comes out there, and he's there about 5 minutes, and he goes, "I can't stay here. I can't watch this. I got to go." I'm like, "All right, man. See you later."
I have a number of rituals when it comes to watching the game on TV. I will, of course, every TV we have is on because in case you have to go to the bathroom, the game comes on, and you're not quite expecting it to come back on. You got to be able to stop and watch it. So then I start the ritual of, okay, we're playing like crap. I'm going to go turn the bedroom TV off because somehow
The bedroom TV is
that will make it better.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, okay, I cannot stand the sound of the opposing team yelling and screaming. I'm going to mute it, and then magically we will start to win. I don't know why those are my TV rituals. Then I even did this, and my little sweet little son's in here in the podcast palace with us, and I don't know if he realizes this, but we went to watch at a friend's house the Texas Tech game last year. And it was back and forth, and we weren't playing that great. And we finally scored a touchdown. Was finally, trying to pull away from him. Mason happened to be outside in the yard, and I said, "Lock the door." I said, "He can stay outside the rest of the game. I don't care." I said, "We can put food through the window, whatever."
We'll throw your pillow outside.
No, I love you, son, but OU's got to win this game.
He's got a water hose. He can drink some water if he needs to.
So she locked you out of the house. You didn't even know it. Oh man, that's hardcore.
Hey, like I said,
Got to do what you
that's
got
a
to
mental
do.
disorder.
I've been known to change shirts in the middle of the game.
Oh, I've done that too. Hair ties, yeah.
Yes, looking for the right shirt that's going to get the good mojo going.
Yeah, if the hair scrunchie I have, OU scrunchie's not working, I'll flip it up and use another one. Yeah.
So how do you explain it then when we go ahead and lose after you've done all your rituals?
Then
The-
you repeat it because it's
Right.
eventually going to catch.
Oh,
Yes, something's going to happen.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Just curious how that worked out.
Because there's no luck when it comes to Sooner. It's all talent and skill and superstition.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and when we're taught Sooner magic, I mean, how can you not be
Yeah,
superstitious?
Rob, do you believe in Sooner magic?
I believe in Sooner magic.
Yeah.
That doesn't have anything to do with superstition.
I mean, when we go down to Stillwater and it's 21-0, and they're about to beat us with Barry Switzer for the first time in however many years, and we come back and win it. I mean,
Sooner magic.
yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't because of any superstition.
It might have been.
Well, but you don't know that, Rob.
Okay. I mean,
The fact is, you know, those of us who are superstitious, you don't want it to be your fault.
No.
You know,
Oh, no.
You know, the Alabama game.
Yeah, well, thanks for keep bringing that up, Terry. Yeah, the Snuggie, okay?
No, I mean,
the
you know,
power
we were
of
telling,
the Snuggie.
we were, you know, in the Sugar Bowl, we were standing up when
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma. We figured out, wait a minute, when we're standing up, we score. So everybody in my house, Rob wasn't here. We were all standing up when we were on offense, sitting down on defense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
One of Caleb's friends, Mikey, came in at halftime. Teresa's back was hurting. She went in the room, and the first thing I did was I went in when the third quarter started. I said, if we start losing, you have to get up.
Get her one of them like Hannibal Lecter
Yeah.
things. Put her up in
here.
that, yeah.
Mikey came over, and the first thing I said to him is that if it turns south, you will leave my house. And
Yeah.
he kind of laughed, and then Caleb goes, he's not lying, Mike.
Yeah,
he
not
will throw
joking.
you out.
We're dead serious around here.
Yeah,
And I believe to a certain extent our superstitions, I believe someone else in Sooner Nation is doing something too.
Oh, yeah.
That we're all going to get our good juju going together, and we'll make it happen.
Because I'm just convinced, too, that Jesus loves us better than everybody else. I mean, it's like I told you the first time I was on your show. My blood is crimson the way our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ intended it to be. If you bleed orange, if you bleed, you know, whatever putrid color is out there, that's your business. But mine is with Jesus. Thank you. Amen.
And Santa Claus red and white.
Yes.
Not Halloween colors.
See, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
And saying that's how we got introduced to Tara was on Twitter. I put a little Twitter question out there is, why do you hate Texas? And Tara's was because my Bible tells me so.
right?
And then she puts on her next post, well, I wrote it in there, but it's still in my Bible.
Yeah.
It's the gospel.
Yeah.
So
Gospel according to Bud, Bob,
Ben
and
Barry.
Barry.
That's right.
And now hopefully Lincoln.
yeah.
Yes.
Lincoln, I'll take it.
So Tara, how did your dad deal with the defensive woes that we've had the last couple of years?
I had to bring that up, didn't you?
Yeah,
Terry?
Daddy was not happy with the defense. And of course, you know, especially growing up in the era that Robin and I grew up in, that's what we were known
Yeah.
for was our defense and our smash mouth defense. And Daddy even had these banners made, custom made, that said, the Great Red Wall of Oklahoma takes no prisoners, defense, defense, defense. And he would bring those to the game too and, you know, wave them around. So he was not very happy. I think while he was grateful for the part that Mike Stoops played in our national championship win, because that
Yeah.
was a defensive win. I mean, when you, and I mean, we even scored their 2 points for
Yeah.
him,
Right,
you know.
right.
I think he was also probably glad to see a change.
Yeah.
And, you know, he wasn't going to go out and publicly badmouth people, but he would, you know.
Under his breath, he was.
Yes. And he and Mike would talk about the defense a lot, too, and things like that when things didn't go well. Where's our defense? What are we doing? What are we, you know? So, yeah, he'd get all fired up. And so, yeah, Dad's a very defense football fan. That was his favorite thing. Was he always called it smash mouth football.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what he
I think
loved. And
as was anybody that lived in that era, am I
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
for
we
sure.
weren't scoring 50, 60 points. Well, I say that. So obviously the hang half 100 on him, but you know, it wasn't, especially throwing the ball.
When we did, back then when we scored 50, 60 points, the other team scored 3.
Right.
If we let them have it.
Yeah, the
Yes.
last 3 years we're scoring 50, 60 points and we're winning by 2 points.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, Dad wasn't
You know,
very happy about that. And
I think the 80s, too, and all that era, 2000 and stuff, our defense wanted to play.
Yeah.
So they wanted our offense to get out there and score so that they had more playing time to knock them in the dirt and hold them and score
Yeah.
themselves, make the big plays, make the big interceptions. So I think that our passion and our defensive players through that era were strong. They wanted to be more on the field.
Yeah.
They weren't trying to avoid to get off,
Yep.
And I think, the conservative ball that we're playing has led to a demise, too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I still get tired. I was watching something on ESPN the other day. Oh, they were, the Kansas City quarterback from Texas Tech, Rob.
Mahomes.
Mahomes. They had him on, and they brought up the OU game, his senior year with him and Baker. And
Where Baker
we
lit him
won,
up.
by the
Yeah,
way, people,
that
in
was-
case y'all forgotten.
yeah,
we
that-
won that one.
that was epic. Maybe one of the greatest games there. No, I hated that game.
Yes.
That whole stinking game. Me and Rob were watching it, and it was
77
just
to 72 or something.
yeah. It was like, oh, stop! I mean,
Yes.
It's like there wasn't a defense on the field.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
just it was.
It doesn't count if they score close to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When they had what,
Yeah.
700 yards of offense or something.
No, I think we both teams had like 825 yards
Yeah.
each.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was a record, right?
It was. Yeah.
Both of them had the same amount of yards.
See, Tara, you were sitting in here when Paul Miliazzo said we were beating them 40 to nothing, and we were mad because they scored at the end of the
Yes.
game on the second
Yes.
Yeah.
second defense.
But
That's
we
the
still
mentality
won.
that we
yeah,
want.
That was their mentality back then. It's like, we don't care that we won. We care that they scored a point. You
Right.
know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and they wanted to make those big plays that scored the touchdown, as many touchdowns as the offense did, when they would come in and get those balls.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they would. Mike and Daddy constantly had conversations about defense. They probably could have, in their minds anyway, been defensive coordinators at OU. Well, if they would just do this, and they would just do this,
So-
but
Well,
but
we
it
all
came
do that,
from a
right?
great
Yeah.
love of the university. So even when they were critical about some things, it was because they loved it so much and they wanted it to be the best
Yeah.
they could be. They were not fair weather fans. It did not matter if we were winning by 60 or losing by 60. We didn't leave that game early.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, when Charles Thompson broke his leg and Jamel Holloway came in, right?
Right.
No, that
Or
was
the opposite.
No, it was
Opposite.
opposite. Jamel didn't break his leg. I think.
Or
Toward or something.
but Thompson came in that Nebraska game, and it
Yeah.
was bitterly cold, and I thought, we're going to die of pneumonia. Wait, Daddy didn't care. The
Okay,
game's
kids,
not
you're
over.
all right.
And of course I'm very much that mentality now too. We go like the Iowa State game last year, or no, a couple of years ago. My husband's like, let's go. I'm like, no, game's not over. He says, we're going to lose. I said, I don't care. I said, we're staying here until it reads 0-0-0. We're not leaving early. And that was just, like I said, that was my dad's mentality and Mike's too. Even though they might complain, it was because they thought we could do better and they thought our boys deserved better. And
Yeah.
Well, and,
It
and
wasn't
my
a-
dad always said, we're not paying them.
Yeah.
They're entertaining me. The least I can do is start the game and finish the game.
Yeah.
And owe them the
Yeah.
respect of sitting through the whole game. And
Right.
I said the year after Daddy died, and we went, or maybe the same year because he died in October, but we were still in football season, and me and my brother left the game early for the first time in 30-something years, and we felt guilty. It was pouring down rain, and we were leaving because we had been raised, you don't leave,
Right.
and it was guilt. But I think that was the main point, is that they loved it. They didn't just love the name on the school. They loved the players. They loved the coaches. They may gripe about them, but if anybody talked bad about them,
right.
they were going to whoop you
Yeah.
for it. And probably never speak to you again.
yeah.
So what was the? My dad had one, and I'll share it. But what was the most absurd ritual or thing that your dad did that you were like, "Ugh, what is wrong
Seems
with you?
normal to me.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm trying to
Rob's the one that thinks it's a mental disorder. It seemed perfectly natural to me.
I'm
Well-
sitting here thinking what I think is normal, everyone else
Yeah.
is an
my,
issue.
My dad, it would never fail. Okay, we were talking. Back in our day, there was only 3 games on TV on Saturday, and maybe once or twice a year it was Oklahoma. So you always listened to John Brooks and
Yes,
on the
Jiminy
radio.
Christmas.
Yeah, and well, we would be playing Kansas, okay, and we'd be up like 55-3 for beginning of the fourth quarter, and Kansas would score. My dad would have a conniption. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, they're gonna mess around and lose this game. And I'm like, Dad, it's 55
Yeah.
to 10. It didn't matter if they scored. Anybody scored at any point in time, and you always just left Dad alone. You didn't.
Amen.
You let him do his thing.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Teresa, when we'd been married quite a while, but she had never been around Dad watching a OU game. And we were playing Colorado, and we were at my parents' house. And again, my dad is yelling at the TV, throwing stuff, hooting and hollering. We're going to mess around, lose this game. And it was the Gibbs era. So,
yeah.
And I think we did
I tried
lose
to
a game.
erase that from my memory.
I said that out loud.
Yeah, but Teresa would start laughing at my dad, and I warned her, and I'm like, just be ready. You think I'm bad, okay?
Yeah.
And this will tell you how much my dad loved my wife, because he would just look at her. He would give her that look of what the hell are you laughing at, and then just turn back around, and then he'd holler something, and she'd and I'm like, you need to stop, okay?
He's fixing to get ugly here in a minute.
You need to go sit in the car, girl.
Yeah. Daddy always repeated himself when he was getting anxious about the game. Like, we'd watch the game. Ref, are you just going to let him hold us all damn day? Ref, are you just going to let him hold us all day? I mean, it would be verbatim, no matter what.
So
and that's when you
he'd
knew.
go Forrest Gump on him, huh?
Oh, yeah. That's when you knew Daddy was pissed. And just, sit there and, So that was his favorite thing to do, too, is to crap about the referees.
Yeah.
And then the OU Texas game, that infamous OU Texas game, where we
Intercepted in the end zone.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I knew that's when it was coming.
Daddy never forgot about that. And every year we played Texas, they screwed us that year. I mean, it's just it's like it's a personal insult, and that's what people that don't follow a team or don't have that don't comprehend. But
Or passion for a team.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's really part of your family history. And just like, Robin and I sharing all these stories, that was our life.
Yeah.
That was our growing up. And the passion that they had for it and all of that is just, it's so ingrained in your family memories. It's not, where are we going for Thanksgiving this year? It's, okay, whose house we're watching the game at.
Yeah.
And I missed the Nebraska game.
Oh, I did
Oh,
too.
that's horrible that
During
we-
Thanksgiving, that was a family get together.
Yeah, it all went to hell when we let Texans in the conference. Yeah.
Well, see, and I've always stood by this. Oklahoma and Nebraska should have kept that rivalry. We
absolutely.
we did it with Texas for hundreds of years.
Yeah,
before
without being in the a conference
it
with
was
Texas,
just,
yes.
One of our non-conference games is going to be Nebraska every year. Why they didn't do that?
Well, and it was
I missed
it. Was
it. It was
so
a great
much fun
rivalry.
to
Yeah.
watch because
Oh, yeah.
I even found that growing up, I would watch Nebraska when they would come on, so that I would be prepared when we got there.
And they had the best fans, too.
Yeah,
Yes, they did.
And that's the thing. We hate Oklahoma State fans.
Oh, they're horrible, hideous human beings.
Texas fans, we hate Texas fans.
Yeah, that goes without
But
question.
Nebraska-
Jesus hates them. I hate them.
Yeah, Nebraska fans, there was a different.
Oh,
There was
Yes.
a mutual respect.
I didn't hate Nebraska.
Yeah. I mean, I went to a Nebraska game and we lost, and I was sitting next to some Nebraska. It was here in Norman, some Nebraska fans, and they were like, we cannot wait until you guys get back. We everybody, they were like, everybody goes through this. We know it's frustrating, but they were like consoling me,
Yeah.
well,
going,
and I think it's a mutual respect.
Yeah,
I
it
think
makes
it's
the rivalry-
mutual respect for
Yeah.
the rivalry.
Mhm.
Because we
it
drove
makes
all
it
the
better.
way up there to Nebraska game with her mom and dad. And me and my brother back then, seatbelts, who cares? Put two kids in the back of the Bronco with lawn chairs facing the other direction, driving all the way to Nebraska.
With fried chicken in the back.
Fried chicken.
Don't forget the fried chicken.
Because it's what's normal, And I remember going to Nebraska, and it was just the air about it and the feeling when you walked in. It was something that I'm glad I got to do because it was that rivalry and the talent you saw from both coaches and players. You can't write that up anymore.
Yeah. Well, and Robin and I were even talking about how it's so much different for our sons because we had access to the players.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and,
you don't
and
have that
when we
anymore.
were growing up, Barry was coach, obviously. And we'd go on the football field
After the game.
and I've got all kinds of autographs. So does Robin. We'd meet the football players, and you just really felt like you were part of something. That you're interacting with these people. And a funny story about Daddy: we had played Kansas State, And so and this is back in the day too, where they just let us run on the field, and sometimes they'd even go back to the car, and we'd just run on the field and get our autographs and come back. Well, they'd stayed, and they'd come back around to where, they'd cross over from the east side to go back to the Bud Wilkinson dorms. And so they're waiting for us, and we'd gotten our autographs on the field, and then we'd go back behind there and wait for the players to come out. And so I go up to Dad, and he's flipping through my autograph book. And then, like Robin said, he had a big booming voice, and he stops, and he goes, "What?" And I'm looking at him, and he says, "Willie the Wildcat." And I said, "Yeah, Daddy, Willie's cool." And keep in mind, I'm probably like Mason's age, my son who's 8. I was probably 8. And I'm pretty sure Daddy wrote me out of the will that day. Yeah. He's like, "You're dead to me, kid."
Just because you got the mascot's autograph.
Yes. He was not happy.
Well, Dad wasn't happy with the horses when they became the mascots.
Oh, yeah. They have evolved those, and they look a lot better now.
He would be pleasantly happy, but
Yes.
those first years, Dad had
Horse pigs. They were scary horse pigs. Remember that when Boomer and Sooner first came out?
He wasn't a big fan of the mascot.
Yeah,
And he
no.
missed
No, they've done
Top
some
Dog.
modifications.
He
Yeah.
loved Top
Yes.
Dog. He loved the Top Dog.
But he was only for basketball. That's the only time
I know.
Top Dog
I
went.
love Top Dog too. But yes, no, Boomer and Sooner have definitely evolved, and they're
Yes, they
actually
have.
cute, and I like them now.
See,
But in
I'm-
the beginning, they were
See,
kind
I'm
of
still
frightening.
I'm still not a fan of Boomer and Sooner.
Yeah.
It's my dad just felt like that wasn't representative of who we were.
Yeah,
the schooner was.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's our mascot. We don't need
Well, the whole thing together, right? The
Yeah.
ponies on the field with the schooner, the whole thing.
we don't need little dressed up fake horsies running
Yeah.
around.
You know what? I will
get
tell
it.
you this: it really bothers me when people go, "Well, y'all's wagon."
Yeah.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Schooner.
It is a schooner.
If you want to be really technical, it's a Conestoga.
Exactly.
You
thought that was a cigar.
uneducated
Yeah, is that-
cretins.
but to reiterate what she was saying, when I grew up, it was you after the game. I mean, you got there like when we went to Nebraska. We stayed in a hotel, the same hotel as the football players. Well, Barry'd have them get wrapped down in the lobby.
Mm-hmm.
So you could walk around and interact with these players. I didn't have to pay $15 to say hello.
Yeah.
And so we interacted, and then we clapped as they got onto the bus to go to the stadium. And then Dad and Bob, we'd race to the stadium. We'd clap as they got off, And then after the game, you talked to them. And then when they went to get back on the bus to head home, you went and stood and you clapped for them and you cheered them on, and then you sent them home. And I think, I met Paul and Sonny Brown and Brian Bosworth and Richard Dillon and all those guys because they were accessible. And I think we are cheating our young kids of the role models by not paying to talk to them. And I think, my son Nick is 13, and by his age, I'd met the whole football team,
Yeah.
and now you go through a line and you say hello. And not that it's a bad thing. Their safety is most important. But now it's called stalking. Back then it was called fan.
Yeah.
We
It was
were
called
called
fan
fans.
appreciation.
We were fans, not stalkers now.
Yeah,
It's
and
okay
I
to.
did-
I was gonna say it's okay to admire somebody's new living room furniture from the front lawn, right?
Hey, Trey, Linda, if you're listening, call me. We'll get that protective order. But yeah, well, what Robin said, I remember going when we went to that Kansas game that we lost. We stayed at the hotel with them as well too, and I remember them getting wrapped up and everything. And it was in the lobby, like in this big banquet room type thing. And some Kansas guy walks by and he stops and does a double take, as we're all kind of in there milling about, and he goes, "Good Lord, what do you feed these boys?" And my dad yells back, he says, "Anything they want."
Jayhawks.
It's going to be fried Jayhawk this
Yeah.
evening.
But I know what you're talking about. When my kids were small, we were Sooner Club members so that they could get in there and get some autographs. But still, to get to the backs or the quarterback, the line was forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and see, I grew up in the same hometown as Sherry Cole. I grew up with her and everything, and when she started coaching at OU, my dad got tickets and everything and wanted to join the kids club that they had for little OU fans, Junior Kids Club, I think that's what it's called. Nancy was 4, and Dad goes, "Sherry, hey, can you let her in because you had to be a certain age?" Way to go, Tara.
Tara broke the microphone
I'll
stand.
just hold it like this.
And she said, yeah, well, later on, I put my daughter in this great big red bow. But they could run out and hit the hands of Katen Hill and
Yeah.
Stacy Dales. You know, my daughter, I have tons of pictures of her getting to high-five them because they let the kids out on the court to escort them in on the games. And I just think, you know, and we talked about it, what wonderful memories we have of the players and the people we met because they belong to us. I said Brian Bosworth came the other day to our all sports banquet down in Ardmore, our big Carter County deal, and I said my heart started palpitating when he walked in. I could hear my blood pumping in my ears because I was like, he's here, and it was all-star. I mean, he wasn't just a player, and, you know, we're 30 years past when he played.
I wouldn't know what that's like. Would I, Terry and Rob, when I met Paul Mialazzo? I was the picture of cool and calm when I met Paul
Giggling
again.
like a schoolgirl.
Yeah.
Oh, but you couldn't beat him in snakeskin boots.
Oh, Lord
Ash.
Jesus, no.
And
Oh!
I said wash jeans and a pale pink shirt.
And
All right, changing
he
the
used to
subject.
wear that black
Oh,
duster coat.
Yes, the trench coat
Yeah.
look. Yeah.
If you're listening, Paul, call me.
Oh, boy.
Well, and he probably really will get a protective order against me. Like that crazy woman.
Well, that's sort of how I felt with Barry Switzer. I'd always tease, you know, because I love the King. I mean, I just do. My dad loved him, and it kind of passed on to me. And I was pregnant with Nick, and he was walking by, and, you know, here's these little Cub Scout boys, you know, trying to get his autograph. And he goes, I don't have time. And I said, you're going to turn away from a pregnant woman that's about to give birth? And he goes, I don't have time. I said, please, Barry, you've got to sign this. So he signed it. And he goes, what about these boys? I go, don't worry about them.
What boys?
Boys, just pay attention to the pregnant older woman chasing you down to get an autograph. God love him, and he did. And that's another thing.
Now, see, back in the day, you know, in Barry's heyday, it'd have been much easier if you'd have just gone to Opie's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Might have. I'm not saying.
Because Barry was probably at
Yeah.
Well, and I said, I've seen him after a ball game come from the locker room and sign autographs. And it might be the game ended at 10. And he would sign. And there you go. You follow me to the car, boys. And he would sign all the way to the car till everyone's had an autograph. And I said, Dad had someone had keyed the word Monster of the Midway, or keyed the quote Monster of the Midway. Dad went out and had a hat made and had Boz sign it after a ball game. I mean, it was just, that's what I'm saying. You could be interactive with them. And Barry always took the time to appreciate his fans. Even a pregnant woman that knocks Cub Scouts
was
down.
clotheslining Cub Scouts.
Get out of my way. Do not
Well,
worry
and
about
there
them,
was
King.
one day me and Teresa had gone to a Thunder game, and we're walking out of the Thunder game, and I just looked to my left, and Barry Switzer's walking next to me. I'm just like, "Hey, coach," and he goes, "Hey, how you doing?" It was just weird, you know.
Yeah.
You're just walking. You know, I didn't know he was there. I just kind of turned to look.
Super personal guy.
Yeah.
Well, and I said that I was telling her on the way here at the Texas game when Sam Bradford got hurt. Wayman Tisdale was coming through in a wheelchair, and we were all going, "Get well, Wayman. You know, we're rooting for you and everything," because, you know, he was another idol that we all had.
He was great.
And then after he left, someone said, "Did you see Toby Keith was pushing him?" I go, "I didn't even see him." It's all about Wayman. I mean, you know, because that's, as OU fans growing up, that was our passion. You knew them.
Yeah.
And I didn't even see Toby Keith because I was so preoccupied with Wayman Tisdale.
Yeah, see, we had season basketball tickets back then, and so I got to see Wayman play in person, and I was a Billy's brat. That's what the kids club was called back then, was Billy's Brats. Even though I clearly didn't, you know, take after the characteristics of being a brat.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, and that's what we talked about with Billy Tubbs. I was at the Missouri game. We looked it up to see who we were playing when, you know, we would stand with the newspapers when Mookie and all of them. I mean, the Missouri team would walk on, you know, newspapers and backs to them. And then when OU came on, you ripped it up and threw it in the air. And we were talking about the game where Billy Tubbs gets on the microphone and says, "Doesn't matter how bad the officiating is.
Yeah.
Don't quit throwing things." And I said, we went bananas.
Yeah.
And I said, back then they had the pay phones at the top of Lloyd Noble. And I ran up the stairs and I go, "Dad, did you see it?" And he goes, "Yeah, they got it on TV." So I said, that's back when you know, those moments, those memories.
Yes, totally part of our, like I said, totally part of our growing up life. A total, you can't think of either one of our dads without thinking about OU.
Mm-hmm.
It's such something that's such ingrained in us, and was ingrained in them, and.
Well, and just like it, and if you notice, we've covered pretty much every sport. I
Yeah.
think, you know.
They love softball too. Yeah.
Yes, a shout out to the women's softball team.
Yes.
We're very extremely proud to be a.
They ran into a buzzsaw from UCLA.
Oh,
Those girls
yeah.
were tough.
Yes,
man.
they were.
God.
But a shout out to Gasso. She keeps
Yeah.
them grounded.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
tell you what.
she's great.
But that's what I'm saying. We're not limited to just football.
No.
We like it all.
Yes.
So this has been a question we've been tossing out there. Who has the most secure job, Patty Gasso or Lincoln Riley?
I would think Patty Gasso.
Hands down.
I mean,
Hey, have you not seen the advertisement for the new stadium?
yeah, exactly.
Her job is.
You're like, this place is my bitch now.
What we need to do for the softball is build an indoor stadium. These doggone games in February
Yeah.
are ridiculous. Make something.
Well, they're gone though. I mean, they play that tournament in California in February. So
Yeah.
Well, and
But-
it's just it's hot sometimes too. Just admit it.
Yes.
The cheap seats where I get, it's a little hot out there.
Yeah, but no, I think it's interesting because they just redid the stadium and now they're wanting to build another one, right, Rob?
well, there's a parking. Parking is an issue, so they're planning on moving it down 2 blocks so that you can walk from the Lloyd Noble parking across the street. So I don't think they have the money for that yet, but I don't, I haven't seen anything on it in a couple months. So
Our tickets will go up, so prices. So we'll be paying
Yeah.
for that later.
well, they're trying to get private donors to pay for it all.
Yeah.
So if that happens, then I don't know why the ticket would go up, but I mean, you can't get a seat in there. So
Yeah.
Right.
and it sells out like in a record time. The first regional sold out in I want to say 4 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to
Oh,
say
yeah.
it went
Like
quick.
that. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Went
see,
real quick.
my parents had season football tickets, season women's basketball, season softball, and we had season tickets to the basketball game, but my dad was such a curmudgeon, I can't say that word today, when they were kind of going back and forth with the ticket prices with Wayman. Is Wayman going to leave and go pro? Is he going to stay? Well, if he does, the price is going to be this. And Dad's basically like, screw you. I love this university, and you're going to try to charge me more if he stays. And so we never got season basketball tickets after that. We went to quite a few games still. But yeah, so, I mean, my parents even had season football tickets to all the other sports.
The football team kind of went through that back in the 90s.
Yes. Yes. Your Sooner Saver seat. Remember those? Yeah.
And
in the 90s.
There was a bunch of people that bought season tickets for the first time because
Yes.
they were affordable and you
Yes.
didn't have to wait in line because
Right.
we were terrible. And then when we win the national championship in 2000, the next year,
Oh, amen.
Yeah.
There's
they
still
were-
a waiting list.
Yeah.
And let's just add, during the 90s when we sucked so bad,
Listen,
we
y'all gotta
still
stop saying that.
averaged more people at our stadium
Oh,
than
yeah.
OSU even held. So suck on that, Cowboys.
This is true, on a bad decade, or not really wasn't a decade. It was 4 years.
I know, but you felt like you're riding the bench on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a tough, got some splinters in the hiney riding.
Yeah.
The year we lost to Tulsa.
Oh.
that was hard.
See, that was
Yeah.
the last game. My dad died in a car wreck, so unexpected. But that was the last game I'd taken my dad to. It still tears me up
Yes.
because I knew we were bad, but I was like, I tried to take him to a game every year, and I was like, I got to pick a game I know we'll win. Okay, because we were bad, and I was like, we'll beat Tulsa. No, not only did we get beat by Tulsa, they still have the longest touchdown pass in Memorial Stadium history of
Yes.
99.9999
That
yards.
was awful.
Yeah, that was, that was funny. My dad was disabled, and one of my favorite stories was my brother-in-law came with him, and we were walking up to the stadium, and my dad walked slow. And this, of course, the older he got, the slower he walked. And he was like, "Fellas, I sure am sorry. You know, I hate you guys can go on. I hate that I'm dragging y'all around." About the time he was apologizing, a whole herd of OU cheerleaders ran past us. You know, all perky and ran past. And I was like, "Dad, it's okay. You know, if you were walking any faster, we wouldn't have seen that."
During the 70s, they cheer right in front of us, and Dad had a favorite with the huge pom-poms that came around.
Yeah.
He would say, "Here comes my cheerleader. She's got double pom-poms."
Double pom-poms.
Exactly. He loved that cheerleader.
Rob, do you need to go? Well, we're going to pause it just a second because Rob has to go back to work.
Bye, Rob. I'm glad you got
Rob.
to see me.
Nice to meet you.
It was nice to meet you all.
Okay, Rob's gone now. We can talk about it.
Okay, good.
Let's
mean,
see, what can
I
we
don't like
bring
to
up?
say things to people's face. I talk behind their back. It's called good manners.
It's better to offend behind.
Yeah, Rob still, it cracks me up that he is not superstitious in
I know,
in
that's
any
so
way.
weird to me.
And
To me,
he's
that is
very
the mental disorder that he has.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
very
yeah.
level-headed. It's concrete.
Yeah.
He's got to see
It's
it,
just-
touch it, feel it.
Yeah, he's just, I don't, like I say, a couple of years ago, and he'll still do it. It's like we got to go out to the patio, and we called it the rally patio. But it was only, and I don't know why, it was only in close games. The rest of the games, we would sit in the living room and watch. But like the Ohio State game, that year that we won, I mean, we went out, we watched it on the second half on the patio, just standing up, screaming and hollering and everything. But he doesn't buy into that at all.
Dad wasn't super superstitious. Dad was just a big memento person. Like I said, the 1979 letter, "Hey, you're on the waiting list." And when, again, going through some of his things in the desk, when you mentioned Ohio State, when they had come, I want to say it was 82,
Yeah.
when they came to Norman, Daddy still had that ticket stub.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he wrote the score on the back, and everything. So he was a big keepsake person when it came to OU, and not just, coffee mugs and that kind of stuff, but like the letter. And then Barry Switzer had written a letter to all the fans, I guess, in 1981, because it just had an ink stamp signature. It wasn't a real signature, and it said, "Hey, nobody thought we could do it, but we sure showed them, didn't we? Thanks for being a Sooner fan." And and Daddy still had that, 30 something years later. And so that was his big thing, was just the keepsakes of his Sooners.
Yeah. Like I was telling you guys, my dad, this was, way 80s, no internet, no Twitter, no nothing. So if you wanted to voice your opinion, you had to write a letter. And my dad, I think it was 82 or 83, we went something like 7-3, 6-4, or something like that. And he was unhappy. And the year before, didn't do that well. So he just sat down and penned a letter to Barry Switzer. And he was so proud because Barry Switzer wrote a letter back to him and basically told him, "You're right. This is unacceptable. You need to do something," or da-da-da-da. And he wasn't an apology letter, but Barry wrote him back. And and unfortunately, the house I grew up in burned down, and that was in the house.
Oh,
but
yeah.
my family, we weren't season ticket holders or anything like that, but we had our, it didn't matter what we were doing on Saturdays when the game come on, the radio got turned up.
Yep.
Windows got opened up if we were outside.
Yes.
And you sat and listened to the game. And then Sunday nights on Channel 8, K2LTV in Tulsa, it was the Barry Switzer Show.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't miss that.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
It was on every TV, all three
Yes.
of them we had in the house, and
Yeah.
you had to watch it then.
Yep, watched it. My dad even had a beta. He got a Betamax VCR because, quote, "it's slow-mo is much better for me to watch the games." Now, Daddy kept that Betamax until I graduated law school in 1998.
Wow.
He still had it and still had all of his OU stuff. He got rid of the Betamax. We still do have the Betamax. So if anybody's out there got a Betamax and you want to watch games from the 80s, call me. I'm your girl. I can get you hooked up.
Well, and I think too, it's so funny as you reflect. To Rob, it sounded unnatural. All this sounds
Oh
natural.
yeah, perfectly normal behavior. I don't know what Rob's talking about.
You know that when you do these things, I said Father's Day was always easy. Find an OU shirt.
Yeah.
Find an OU something.
Now, see, when you leave here, you need to talk to Teresa because that's what she gets me is stuff because that's all I want.
Right.
If it's, and I've always said, if it's got Oklahoma Sooners, Pittsburgh Steelers, or Iron Maiden on it, I'm happy. I'm easy to
Exactly.
buy for Christmas, birthday, Father's Day. That's it.
Well,
you know,
and my
if
husband-
there's something outside of that I want, I will tell you. You know, I want a new lawnmower. I will tell you. But other than that, you know, she was talking the other day. I don't know what to get you for Father's Day. Really? Look at
Yeah.
this room.
That was our goal, was what does Daddy not have that has OU on it?
Yeah.
So he's got an OU candy bar from the 1980s that he would never allow anybody to eat. I mean, we could be starving. You know, the nuclear war could have been upon us. We'd have been starving to death. No one would have eaten the candy bar. He's got OU cornflakes. Of course, OU golf balls, all that kind of stuff. We have an OU hammer, an OU level, an OU tape measure. I mean, basically anything OU you can think of.
Yeah.
And then it was not this Christmas, but last Christmas, I went to high school with a guy that works with the Sports Tunes guy. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That does all the things.
Yeah.
And I sent him a picture of my dad, sent him a picture of Mason, and he drew a picture of Mason getting a little baby longhorn in a chokehold, and my dad kicking Pistol Pete in the butt. And so Dad just thought that was over. And shout out to Mr. Sports Tunes guy, if he's listening, he would not take any money from me.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I offered to pay him, said, please let me pay you for your work. No, I love doing it. And, you know, of course, and I had to gush about how much my dad loved it, but I think that was probably the favorite Sooner gift I ever got my dad. So I was glad I could do that before he passed.
Yeah, the Sports Tune guy, he did our logo.
Oh,
And
okay.
I was like, how much? He's like, don't worry about it. But you know, I mean, he did the Boomer Magnificent
Yes.
7 that's up there.
Oh,
I asked him if I could print that out, you know, because it actually, I sent him a deal because somebody put it on Facebook
Yes, I
to
saw
sell
that.
shirts. And I was like, hey, dude.
that's not your
And-
work. Yeah.
And he actually got the university on him too, going, hey, you know, they're using, you know, it's his copyright infringement and stuff. But when I wanted one of them, and I gave one to Rob, me and Teresa did for Christmas, and I sent him an email and said, hey, are you okay with me doing this? I said, I'll pay for them. And he was like, you know, thanks for asking. Nope, you don't need to pay for it. You're more than happy to print it out. And we gave one away at our deal we had for the spring game, and I asked him the same thing. I want to give one of these away as a door prize. How much? And he was like, thanks for asking. You know, just ask his permission, and he's okay with it. Don't
super nice about it. Yeah, and especially I was very impressed with just basing it, because he'd never met Mason, he'd never met my dad, and I mean, you could tell by looking at the picture exactly who it was.
Yeah.
You know, he did a great job on it. Great job.
Yeah, but no, like I said, I don't think my dad though had, you know, it was he didn't have any superstitions. I think I built those superstitions on myself. And it was actually, if I remember right, remember Kelly Phelps
Yes.
played quarterback. Remember, he wouldn't shave before a game. And when I was in high school, he would shave after the game, and he wouldn't shave the week of the game. And that's, you know, I had one of them neck beards when I was in high school. You know, no nothing up here. I guess that's just kind of where it came from. You know, wore the same socks playing high school ball, and I still have those socks. And I've just, you know, it just gradually became a part of my fandom with OU, is that I have shirts. I buy a new shirt every year. And if we lose, I buy another new shirt.
Exactly.
The year we lost to Houston, Houston and Ohio State, I had to buy 3 new hats because I get a new hat every year. So
See, that's perfectly logical. I don't know, Rob is the one that needs to get checked out. Rob, if you're listening, go get checked out because
You can
something
never
is wrong
have
with you.
enough OU stuff.
No, absolutely not.
My husband bought me one year for the old phones, the cover, it said OU National Championship. He said, I went nuts. He said, I bought her diamonds, but she was more happy over a little OU cover than she was any of the diamonds I bought her through the years.
So how was your dad with the alternate uniforms? Is he an alternate?
He hated them, and I hate them.
How would your dad have been with that?
Oh, he would have. No, you stick to what works.
Yeah,
and if you put on a different, but really, most of my friends that are diehard, I have a couple of friends that are diehard like me, and their families are diehard. They'll write and go, I can't believe we're wearing these suits. We can't do anything in them. Why can't they stick with what works?
It really irritated my dad. It wasn't so much, he didn't like the alternate uniforms, but it really bothered him when they incorporated a color that was not our color. Yeah. And I know so many, and of course I'm going to sound so firmly rooted in middle age when I say this, but all of the young people that are like, oh, blackout uniforms would be so sick, would be so sweet. I'm thinking, black is not a school color. It's like I could hear my dad's voice. Why would we want to wear black?
Yeah.
That ain't a school color.
We don't sing it in our chant.
Yeah.
It is not in
It's
our
not
chant.
go big black. It's go big red.
Yeah. But see, if we didn't have an iconic logo and uniform, and I know I've seen, people are like, well, the Selmans didn't have Sooners across their jerseys when they played. Well, I said, yeah, but that has become iconic with Oklahoma. There are teams that have their name small or even big, their state across it. But Oklahoma is the only school that has their mascot Sooners across the front of their.
Exactly.
And I think that's iconic enough. You look at, our home jerseys and our away jerseys, it's iconic. It's, I didn't have an issue with them making the logo bigger on the helmets. No. That didn't bother me. But when I'm not a fan of the bring the wood helmet. No. I'm not a fan of a white helmet with a red OU.
No, I'm not either. I like our crimson ones because it looks like a Christmas ornament.
Yes.
It shines.
It's shiny like a Christmas ball, yes.
It shines wherever they're at.
Which goes back to Jesus and back to Santa Claus, which is just further proof that we are the chosen ones.
But I think, too, that the traditional things are what keeps why we are, when fans come to, we've talked about Notre Dame and Tennessee on our drive up here, is that when people come, they know us. I was in the Cayman Islands on our honeymoon when my husband and I got married, and I had on my OU shirt. They don't mix it up with anybody else.
Right.
They don't mix it up with any other school. Mm-mm. They don't mix it up with anything else. They go, oh, you're from Oklahoma. And it can be black with a white OU on it. I mean, I think it's representative of our fans when we wear it, the schooner, the things like that. And I'm not good with change.
Yeah.
I'm not good with change. I like to keep things, and I guess that's where the superstition comes in. I like to keep things going in the right direction, and I don't like change. And I think, and I understand the young kids. I mean, it is 2019, and they're wearing suits from 1980.
Yeah.
Well, but see, here's my deal with it. When I talk about it, is people are like, the kids like that, the recruits like that. Alabama doesn't do it. Clemson doesn't do it. So
don't break what's not broken.
Yeah.
I mean, I get, I hate the, if I was Oregon, I would be pissed off because that was Oregon's thing. Oregon was, and I would watch an Oregon game just to see because they would always hide it until, what was it, 10 years ago, they would hide it until the game.
Right.
And you were like, what are these guys going to come out in now, and that was their deal. And then all of a sudden, everybody started doing it. Everybody, and Oklahoma State, you don't know what jersey they're going to wear or helmet or anything. It's like, I get it, but also when you're an iconic blue blood school like the University of Oklahoma, I don't think you need it.
No,
I think we can live on our talent alone and tradition and continue to build on that tradition.
And when you're not, you've got all your little outfit changes like our friends to the north have.
we're becoming in the minority because a lot of people are going, hey, we need to have stuff like that. We need to have an alternate jersey. We need to have the, what we played in the Big 12 championship in the alternate jersey. So
Yes, we did know.
Well, and maybe, and of course, obviously, Robin and I are girls, and we've never competitively played football.
Oh, I've sat through games where I've sweated like
Yes,
I have.
yeah. But does that matter to the kids? I mean, to me, if I'm going to OU and I'm going to more likely than not win a Big 12 championship, I'm going to play for a national championship, I'm hopefully going to win one, I might go out and play in a potato sack.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't know,
Play in
maybe
front
that
of
does make a difference to
millions and
recruits.
millions.
I don't know.
And
Yeah.
play in front of millions and millions. I
Right.
mean,
And yeah,
so
be
many
on
people-
national TV
But-
all the time.
But I think the word it does. I mean,
Yeah.
when you have a variety, when you bring them, first off, if I was, when Paul Miliazzo was here, and we've had Rufus here,
Oh, Roof.
and
Yeah.
when you talk to them about the facilities, especially when Bosworth and Miliazzo, when those guys were playing, facilities weren't anything.
No,
You know, I
compared
mean,
to
it
what
was
they
a-
are now.
And like Rob-
Touchdown
It would be like Section 8 housing.
The touchdown club used to park on the practice field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I know the facilities weren't that great.
and now it's like Rob said before, you go in, it doesn't even smell like a locker room.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the stuff that the university and the athletic departments have to do now to lure these kids. It's not just it is history and what you're doing now and everything else, but when you walk into the palace on the prairie out here and you go in there, it's second to none.
Right.
And the scary thing is that in 6 years it won't be. They will have to upgrade it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in 6 years after that, they will have to update it again, because that's become the thing. Is all of these schools are spending millions of dollars on facilities, and when you walk in, it's not just, I get to go to Oklahoma. Back in the
Yeah.
day, it was Oklahoma's recruiting me. Yay, I get to go up and see Oklahoma. And now these kids walk in, Oklahoma, what you got?
Yeah.
Show me what you got.
Yeah, well, and that's the truth. It's comparing now.
Yeah,
Who's got the best facility, and that's why we have to keep trying to keep up.
right.
Is because we don't pay for their cars.
Yeah.
We bring them up here and let them look at our facilities.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's hard to be an 18-year-old and make decisions like
Yeah.
that with some of the things you see now.
Right. I think so too.
But I've never been a fan of the alternates. I thought I didn't really like it when Jason White was playing and we did the 1950s jerseys
Oh,
throwback.
no.
I was like,
Yeah.
No,
You know?
I was afraid of bad juju.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they look
scared
cool.
me.
It was like, I would rather do something like that than
Right.
do something like what we're
Yes,
doing.
I don't think anything new. Bring back old
Yeah,
and keep it the same, but definitely.
yeah. If they would,
definitely-
if they'd play a game to pay homage to the '85, national championship, wear the mid drifts,
Yes.
God love them and the torn shirt,
Yeah.
the sleeves off. God love them.
That would be cool. But this stuff.
Well, and even my brother, I got a picture of him with the Boz haircut when he was in junior high school.
I remember that
Ball
hairdo.
season,
Yeah.
He had to get that Boz haircut going on. We can bring back the Boz haircut, old suits. Let's do it all.
But what else do y'all got? Anything else y'all want to share?
I have a poem that I wrote, and then I have a funny story about the poem, but I have a poem that I wrote for my dad to read at his funeral. And since this is kind
Is
of
it going to make me cry? Because if it's going to make me cry, I'm going to go out.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
But let me say this before we do that. Our dads were loud and obnoxious, sort of like us. And, nothing is
I mean,
held back.
Robin clearly takes after them. I don't.
Yeah. No.
I mean, and we're very passionate and we believe in everything. But I also have to say, every time I hear thunder, I always think it's my dad.
Yeah.
Especially if the game is going a little rough and it thunder. I go, if you hear thunder, it's Mike McElroy jumping all over heaven asking Jesus to give us a win.
Yeah.
But now each kickoff, and I know she'll be the same way, it will be there's always something missing, and I
Yeah.
know you do too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I said always when they play the video or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the planes fly overhead and everything, I said I do cry a little bit because our dads loved it, and I know, you know, there were some games Dad was sitting on the goalpost blowing the football a little bit
Yeah.
farther in to get in between. But, you know, I hope everybody understands it's something of who we are and how we are, but I'm so thankful for it.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't trade a memory.
The first, I can't remember what it was. What it was, a Texas A&M game. It may have been the year my dad died. The first one I went to after he passed away, and I couldn't make it through the national anthem.
I couldn't
Yeah.
either.
No.
When the band comes on,
Yeah, you know, the
tears
flag,
roll
because
down my face.
my dad was military and everything.
Yes.
And, you know, they start the national, and I was just like, you know, I mean, I couldn't do it. I couldn't make it through.
Football season this year is going to be bittersweet for me
Yeah.
because it's going to be the first one in 40 years without Daddy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be trying,
Yeah.
but you know, I can't not go, and I don't want to not go,
Yeah.
but it's just, you know, because Daddy would want us to carry on, and he'd be the first one yelling, "Get your ass to the game! You're going to be late," you know. So
Well, and it's, you know, and when we buried Dad, and we buried him in the OU casket with his OU shoes, OU belt, OU shirt, and his OU 7-time national championship, and I said, my brother wrote a story about that funeral. You know, we had 900 people in a town of 800, you know, show up and wearing we did it like a tailgate party. And we wheeled him out to Boomer Sooner. And my brother wrote in the story, the only thing we were missing were the OU cheerleaders holding signs.
Yeah.
Boomer,
Yeah.
Sooner, Boomer, Sooner. And we sent him out with such a wonderful tribute
Yeah.
to his love of OU. And I think that's exactly how Tara did Bob's. I said it was, and there was thunder. When she was
Yes.
reading this poem, I looked at my brother and I go, okay, Dad and Bob are jumping up and down in heaven today.
okay, so here's my final OU tribute to my daddy. It started for you at the age of 8 when Big Brother Bill got called to play for Bud the Great. While Big Brother Bill defected south to chase Horn Frog dreams, you remained steadfast, always loyal to your crimson and cream. You sat through the cold, the rain, and the heat, never leaving Memorial Stadium early, even when our Sooners were beat. You saw the wishbone executed with grace and ease, and witnessed the Selman brothers drop our opponents to their knees. You saw Billy Sims and Greg Pruitt, the Boz and Holloway. Then came the 90s. Dear Lord, was that the longest decade. But then Bob Stoops came on board, and Sooner Nation once again roared. You were there for it all, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. And your Sooner hope sprang eternal with the presence of Coach Riley. So as you enter Sooner heaven, may Wayman Tisdale's pearly whites greet you at the pearly gates. Hey, since you're up there, talk to the big man upstairs and see what he can do to help us win number 8. May you run through crimson clouds like Tommy McDonald ran through D-lines. May the ball from Mildred or Steve be never fumbled but handed to you at just the right time. May Jimbo, Everidge, and Leroy help you clothesline those Texas 11. Wait a minute. Who am I kidding? We all know that Longhorns don't go to heaven. As I stand here today, I can crane my ears toward the heaven and hear your big, booming voice. Magic, you don't need any luck. And let me tell y'all, the day I left Sooner Nation, Texas still sucked.
Love it.
That's cool.
Now, the funny part of that story was when I was writing this, of course, obviously Daddy had passed away, and I was writing it and trying to think of what I could do. And I had written that passage about Jack Mildren and Steve Davis. And the original passage was, may you always catch the pass thrown by Mildren and Steve, precisely and perfectly on time, or something to that effect is what I was sketching out. And then it dawned on me. I'm like, well, wait a second. We did the wishbone.
Yeah.
There was no passing the ball, and I could just hear my dad like, "Girl, I raised you better than that. What do you mean? Mildred was the godfather of the wishbone." And so that's when I had to change it to make sure. I know, right?
Love the wishbone. Bring it back.
Yes. So I had to change it because I could hear my dad's voice in my head going, I raised you better than that.
Yeah.
You know about the wishbone.
Yeah, like I said, my dad. But I mean, if he would meet you guys today, and maybe 3 or 4 months later, or 6 months later, or whatever time later, see, he may not remember you, but he would know he knows you, and you would get that funny look from him. You know, and I could tell it because he was trying so hard to figure out who you were. Yet his long-term memory, I mean, he would sit and talk about, you know, the Sooners in the 50s, and he could rattle off the offensive linemen and whatever it was, you know, but you know, he may not remember you
Right.
right after. But I mean, that amazed me. And I didn't tell you, my dad actually also went to Oklahoma State for a semester or 2 semesters, because he was, you know, he was going to be a farmer. Where else do you go?
All right.
Except to Oklahoma A&M back then. But he still wasn't a Cowboys fan. I mean, the only good thing I ever heard him say about Oklahoma State was he liked going to basketball games when he was a student there, because that's when Hank Iba was there.
Yep.
And he would stomp his foot when he was mad. And he goes, that stomping of the foot would echo, and the crowd would get quiet. It was his way of getting his players' attention. He goes, that was the coolest thing ever. I never seen a guy could stomp his foot
Yeah.
and get people's attention.
Exactly.
But other than that, he was like, no. If I'd have gone to OSU, he'd have shot me.
Yeah.
You know.
Dad wouldn't have paid or
No,
donated
no.
or anything. He
Yeah.
would have sent me on my way and disowned me.
And Caleb, who does the podcast when he wants to, but I mean, he was a pretty good little league wrestler, and you know, he stopped wrestling before the middle school, junior highs wanted him to wrestle, but he wanted to play basketball and stuff. But he used to ask me, you know, Dad, what would you do if Oklahoma State, you know, wants me to wrestle for him? I'm like, we're not going to have that discussion.
Yeah.
It is not an option.
Yeah, no, my dad was the same way. He always told me, he said, you can go to school wherever you want to, but if you want your daddy to pay for it, you'll go to OU. And, you know, some of my friends, I tell them that story over the years, like, oh, yeah, your dad's funny. I'm like, yeah, he is, but he wasn't joking about that.
Yeah, that's when you go, no, he was serious, okay?
Yes.
You don't understand what I grew up in.
Well,
Yeah,
and that's sort
totally
of like when we were
serious.
trying to explain to Rob, this is a thing.
Yes.
This is not.
I mean, like, I didn't even apply to any other school.
Yeah.
I applied to OU, and that was it.
This is reality.
Yeah.
This is not made up.
Yeah. But anyway, well, y'all have anything else y'all want to share?
I don't think so.
know.
I mean,
Unless
like I said, we could stay here all
my
day.
son probably with the Texas Tech bus. My dad, this was told at his funeral. Dad was, and my brother and his best friend were coming back from a Texas Tech game or Texas A&M. Michael, forgive me if I get it wrong. Anyway, and they were driving by the bus. We had just whooped them. And driving by it, and my dad reached under on his Bronco and presses his Boomer Sooner horns. And about 60 birds come flying out of the window at him. And he thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. He loved going by and blowing those horns. But Michael said it was. They all reached out of the window and flew us the bird. So anyway, Nick likes that story.
See, even they knew we were number one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Thank
If
you,
you-
in
if you-
stereo.
Yeah. If you don't want us to blow our Boomer Sooner horn, beat us.
Yes.
Exactly.
yeah, that's what Billy Tubbs always said. You don't want to get beat by 50 points. Bring a better team.
Yeah. It's just that simple.
Bring your best. We'll bring ours.
Yeah.
I think that's it for today's podcast, ladies. I appreciate you guys making the trip up here and
Well, thank you for
blessing
having
us
us.
with your
Yes.
presence.
It was a lot of fun. I
And-
enjoy talking OU football.
Yes.
Or
And
baseball or softball
Yeah.
or
Or whatever.
basketball.
yeah,
All things crimson and cream.
yeah. Even though I think Rob also had a slight heart attack when he was, because we normally watch baseball when we're in here. We'll have the baseball, and Rob was like, "So y'all want to watch baseball?" Both of them were like, we're not baseball fans."
Yeah, sorry, Rob.
So he turned to golf.
So he turned it to golf.
Yeah.
So, which is, are y'all golf fans? No.
I should be. My daddy loved golf, but I don't.
Dad loved to play it. He wasn't good at it.
Yeah, no,
Well,
Daddy was a pretty good golfer.
That's how
but-
most people are.
Yeah, I didn't. I fondly think of golf because again, it reminds me of Daddy. But no, I was not. And God loved Daddy. He tried to teach me, and I just never. Now he
It's
did
too
make
slow.
Mason a crimson and cream putter, though.
Ah.
Yeah.
Do you use it? He just went shy.
Yeah,
Yes,
he taught you to putt a little bit. Yeah, and he tried to teach me how to golf, and I was not good at it.
But anyway, everybody, thanks for listening. And we will see y'all next time. Boomer Tara.
Boomer Sooner.
Boomer Robin.
Boomer Sooner.
Thanks for listening to the Sooner Football Fans Podcast. Sooner Football Fans Podcast is hosted by Rob Nixon, Terry Long, and occasionally Caleb Long. It is produced at the beautiful Podcast Palace in Norman, Oklahoma. Follow us on Twitter at SoonerFBFans and like our Facebook page at Facebook.com/Sooner Football Fans and visit our website at www.SoonerFootballFans.com to read our blogs and keep up with our tailgating activities. Boomer Sooner, everyone.